his phone's on. Pleasure?
I reckon.
A buff.
A little buff. I guess we'll just
Do you need this?
chat about it. I'll get. There we go. Cool. Guess we'll
There it goes. There we go.
Guess we'll jump into it. We got a couple special guests. I'm your host, Dominic DeCoco. This is Mr. Margarete.
Margarete.
So, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Legacy Ranch. So first off, a couple introductions. Go ahead and tell us about yourself. What do you do? What brings you out here, and all that kind of stuff.
I guess I'll go first. So I'm Tim Welch from Greensboro, North Carolina, currently active duty, working over at Stone Bay, part of the Marksmanship training unit. So we teach Marines how to become coaches and teach Marines how to become marksmanship trainers. And that's basically my day job. And on the side of that, we're also on the Camp Lejeune Shooting Team. So we shoot a lot, we instruct people a lot. That's why we're out here, teach a class.
Nice.
Tanner Wright, also on the Camp Lejeune Shooting Team and part of the MTU. A USPSA Grandmaster, placed well in a couple matches. We're just out here teaching a class, hanging out with our man Parker over there.
Let's go.
That guy.
Nice. Cool, man. So, welcome, and thank you guys for your service. Happy birthday yesterday, whenever that was.
It
was yesterday.
Birthday for everybody.
Yeah, yesterday, birthday for all of us. So, what are your, sounds like you guys shoot a lot, right? Is that an accurate statement? Fairly accurate statement? Okay. So what are your first impressions here at Legacy? Like, what was your first initial thoughts when you came onto the ranch for the first time?
I think it gives everybody of every skill level a lot of different opportunities and capabilities to do really whatever they want to and whatever type of training they want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Parker here and yourself, you guys can already cover down on a lot of the firearms instruction portion, especially just starting this company. So it really lets people stretch what they're capable of and have a place to try new things and not have to worry about getting kicked out.
So, I mean, obviously in your guys' travels, shooting all around the country, you've been exposed to a lot of different shooting facilities, as well as matches, rifle only, bunch of pistol bays in those shooting ranges. So how does this place compare to the other places you've been?
Significantly higher altitude. But
is that a physical thing, or is that a weapons thing?
It's not very pleasant to run. But no, this is a very well put together place. Having the buildings to actually be close to a range and still be able to go inside to hide from the weather is pretty nice. Not a lot of places have that. I think the only one that I've ever been to that had that was out in Utah, and that was also a Wild West style, but it was every single bay had a house on it. But gravel bays are different. A lot of them only have something on the ground, which is something I know we can push for.
Yeah, grass doesn't grow naturally in New Mexico, so that's our challenge. So it's going to be a dusty environment with some gravel, but all right, that's cool.
Yeah. So you guys, like you were saying earlier, you guys travel a lot. Is that for the Marine Corps? Or is that kind of on your own time, your own personal competitions that you go to?
So the Marine Corps hasn't quite got to the point where they're able to fund us full time traveling.
Okay.
What they can do is allot us time off, like taking leave, or in some cases permissive TAD. But that's few and far between. It depends on the actual type of match. So a lot of it's just self-funded and then supported by our unit to give us that time off.
Very cool. What do you think the Legacy Ranch's role would be in the shooting community? I mean, given your expertise, your experience, seeing a bunch of different training facilities, civilian training facilities, how do you think that what's Legacy's role in the shooting community?
I think it definitely like the way that the bays are set up and how it's your own PSO, so you're able to police yourself when it comes to safety. It allows people to really dictate their level of training. So if you're a beginner and you still need to do like static shooting, you can do that. But if you're a more advanced shooter, you can go out, you can set up a stage, you can run whatever you need to run. And a lot of civilian ranges, especially near Jacksonville, hate that. So this is a really good place for the next step in training.
So are you saying training looks different based off of your skill level, but most ranges don't let you move?
Yes.
You have to stand behind a table. And have you ever gotten in trouble for drawing from a holster while at a shooting range?
All the time.
But where does your gun get stowed?
In the holster.
Okay, so we should probably, as a shooting community, get comfortable with learning how to shoot and draw from a holster and shoot and move and have multiple target engagements, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, so of all the places you've been and shot at, what percentage would you say allow you to do that?
Depending on if like they're hosting a match, obviously it's different.
Yeah.
But probably about 50-50.
Okay. And obviously indoor ranges, I understand why you can't. There's a lot of safety factors there, but okay, cool.
I think it really comes down to like the liability that the landowner is willing to accept, and
Sure.
then like how familiar they are with practical shooting or that skill set, and like if they even know what drawing from the holster entails. Because once you start talking anything dynamic and moving, a lot of people just implode.
Yeah, and that's probably just a series of, whether people were in the military or cops or whatever, those training isms that you have to experience throughout different ranges that you go to, and then that just gets carried on. But I think just to give people a visual, people who are listening to this, so you have 17 shooting bays here, and they're 50-yard deep berms, right? So you can be, say, uprange or downrange within your own personal berm, and you don't have to worry about the berm to the left or right. So if you're downrange stapling targets, you don't have to worry about the guy who might be 50 yards behind you. You're still in a safe spot. So I think that's what helps us mitigate that risk factor.
Yeah, and you guys seem like you have really tall berms,
Yeah.
so it doesn't really seem like there's a ricochet hazard unless you're shooting like close targets further back in the berms.
Right.
So like the safety wise, it seems very well put together.
Good. Yeah, and we got to explore the gas gun range for a little bit, which is an intermediate rifle range that we just put in. Actually hasn't even opened to the public yet, mainly because of the snowfall. But the other day we got to go around and we called it Open World UKD, where we just got to walk around the range, and as long as that shot and that gun target line was inside that berm of where that target was, it was a safe shot to take. How was that experience for you guys?
I thought it was a blast. That was probably the only time I've ever actually enjoyed shooting gas gun, because normally gas gun is just really boring, and it gives you the opportunity to just like walk around and almost do like almost an NRL hunter kind of feel, where you can just walk around the woods and then you see a red target sitting out there poking behind a couple trees, and you try and find some stable position to range estimate and engage it.
Okay. If you could change or add something to this place to increase its capabilities or increase its quality or whatever it may be, what would you think you would do?
That's tough, because this place offers literally everything, like from archery to short bay rifle to long bay rifle. Maybe a golf cart. This place is a little big.
We actually have 2 golf carts.
There we go.
Yeah.
So that works.
That works.
All right, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, golf carts would be cool.
We need to get a fleet of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Go ramping, just romping through the.
We've already done our first trial run of automotive self-recovery.
If you can't tell from the video, we are quite muddy right now. We had about 12 to 18 inches of snowfall this past week, and it's starting to melt now, which combining with the clay out here has been fun.
Yeah, this soil is pretty tough out here. Actually, kind of on that note, real quick, when you're thinking about improvements, there's a lot of people that come out and kind of do the shooting behind a bench, and they're okay with the weather being what it is because it kind of doesn't really matter. But when it comes to training, whether that's tactical training or something for the competition side of things, you're dropping mags, you're reloading, you're doing whatever. Would you say that it's a good test to keep the terrain as it is, or would you want us to resurface with something else? I know we kind of talked on that earlier on grass, but
yeah, I would definitely resurface, because if you want to continue doing that training more than one reload a day, and not have to clean your mags every single time, because especially that dust will really get in there. And then when people start trying to shoot quickly, it's going to start making a dust storm, especially if you have multiple days running like a match or something. It's gonna turn south really quick.
Yeah, I do like the coating of vegetation on the sides of the berms, so that helps mitigate that. But the back berm obviously gets quite shot up. That's good.
So you guys are currently active duty. You flew in from North Carolina. You guys were here at Legacy Ranch doing what exactly?
We were just kind of helping out, kind of like ranch hands. We would go look after the cows. Then we would come in here, we would shoot. It was kind of like all over the place.
Yeah, did a little bit of everything. Yeah, but you guys ran a course, right? You guys, students and everything. What was that like? What were you teaching? What was your student base like?
So it was more of a performance shooting class, not really too focused on a specific skill.
Okay.
It was really guided by the students and like what their skill set and what their capabilities already were, and then where they wanted to be by the end of the day. And the overwhelming majority wanted to just do rifle and pistol fundamentals, so we just stuck with that. We did rifle in the morning. I think we took like a 30-minute break for lunch, and then jumped right into pistol. Essentially did the same thing with pistol, and then at the end of it we gave them about an hour to do really whatever they wanted to, and then like we were just there to help them out if they needed some sort of guidance. And it gave them access to a range that may not allow that kind of stuff, and still have the safety and supervision if they weren't comfortable with that type of shooting.
So as an instructor, you get a wide range of students in terms of what their capabilities are, and when they're all in one class, that can be challenging, right? Because you got this guy who's super knowledgeable and proficient with his firearms manipulation, and then there's this guy over here who can't tell the difference in recoil impulse of a loaded gun, or it just locks back to the rear on empty. So what are the challenges associated with that as an instructor, having to teach both of those types of people in one class?
So it makes it a lot simpler when you have more than one instructor that can bounce back and forth between, maybe you have one troubleshooter or one guy that is clearly further than the rest of the class, and like just being able to have like do skills that everybody can do, and no matter their skill set, they may just do that task a little bit quicker, a little bit slower, based off of where they're at, but everybody is still getting something out of that drill, and that just comes from experience and being able to identify your crowd.
Okay.
Tuning it to them.
Yeah. You were telling me this year at intramurals when you guys were teaching, because you have a package and you have certain wickets you need to hit, and in the past, if that group is pretty well grasping it, you still have to teach it per Marine Corps, equal instruction for all competitors, right? Maintaining that equity, I understand, but what did you guys do this year differently?
We definitely built it completely off of their skill set.
Okay.
And if one class showed up and they were like the SOY class, like every single person in there was squared away. So like we spent maybe 2 hours on fundamentals and just like working up, still hitting everything that we hit with everybody else, just in slightly less detail, and skimmed over it a lot faster, so that we could then get to where they're not comfortable and we could work on like stage skills or like stage breakdown.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
So you're saying like teaching to the capability of the student and modifying your plan to the student.
Yeah. Which like all of that stuff was already pre-planned. It was just like when we briefed it to our battalion commander, it wasn't really a set. We were doing exactly this for exactly this much time with this many bullets. It was like, this is the stuff we're going to cover, but depending on the group, we may spend more time in the other one.
Yeah.
Either way,
Go ahead.
Either way, every group will get fundamentals and stage skills. It's just how much time in each they get.
Sure. And what was the response from the students for that?
It was very positive.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly positive.
Okay. So that's something that you mirrored for this class as well. Because we had some guys who were quite experienced and some who were still teacupping their pistol. And they would come in during breaks or as they'd come in to either get warm or load some mags in the warmth of the store. They would make those comments of like, wow, this is really great. They're pushing you appropriately towards your skill set, but they were all very pleased with how you guys taught. You didn't just make sure that the entire line did this one drill, perfectly. It's like, hey, you got it. You move on to this next task or this new technique. I'm gonna work with this guy for a little bit longer. And you're having to, as an instructor, be a little bit fluid with how you teach and who you teach. Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's
It's all about being flexible with the people that you are instructing.
So what were some of the things that you taught in this class? Either you said fundamentals, but did you guys get into any advanced concepts, or was it kind of just a real basic course?
I wouldn't really say advanced, because that's a very weird word to try and put on shooting.
Even though the Marine Corps just did that.
Like fundamentals, at the end of the day, is just fundamentals, and once you master it slow, you start doing it quick. So, like some of the students would still be at like, let's say, a level 1 fundamental level, where they're doing everything slow and very deliberate and methodical. And then like some of them will start speeding that stuff up to start letting the training wheels fall off a little bit and progressing where they're at just with their fundamentals.
Okay.
If there was a line, so to speak, that separates advanced, would there be, what would your opinion, you said the Marine Corps just put a label on it, where is that advanced line, just for people who might be curious, who might be, I don't know, I'm not advanced enough, or I'm not good enough to go take a class. Like,
I would say if you can do all the basic skills of drawing your weapon, prepping the trigger, reloading, knowing the impulse, and like not having to think about what to do. Like if your gun jams, not just be like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
right.
Then you're probably in the realm of like ready to start taking more classes, or like what you could call a more advanced class.
Okay. And there was a couple of comments that were made this weekend that I think it highlights the difference between people's mentality as they approach firearms training or just shooting in general. And I want to kind of spend some time talking about that a little bit, because there was one guy who was talking about his previous experience and his involvement with the police department here. And so he felt really comfortable with a pistol, but he wanted to focus on rifle, which is great going into a class, having some training objectives. I want to focus more on this thing rather than this thing. But I've heard a lot of people these past couple months kind of almost have the mentality of like, well, I'm good there. I don't need to keep training on that. But you, as a very high level shooter, placing 9th at SIG Sauer Nationals, Handgun Nationals this past year, you're proficient more than probably 99.99% of the population on pistol. Do you feel like you've ever just achieved that? Like, hey, I'm good, I can coast from here.
Never. Like, always learning and always being a student is probably one of the best things that I've ever heard. And like, always wanting more knowledge. And like, even when you are a world champion, somebody's coming for you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't get better, then you're gonna fall out. So you gotta keep grinding and work through it. Like, you may feel like you're just beating a dead horse by doing the same doubles at 25 every time, but eventually it's gonna get better. And like, once you start doing it well, now you gotta do it faster and further away.
So Tim, you're relatively new to competitive shooting, although you've demonstrated a lot of talent, and that's why the Camp Lejeune Shooting Team picked you out and have picked you up and brought you over to the team. What does your training regimen look like compared to some of the guys with a little bit more experience?
So, me personally, I feel like I'm playing a game of catch up. So I always try to make sure I'm training more than them. So like especially dry fire, like sitting in my room for hours on end, just manipulating my rifle, manipulating my pistol, and being as comfortable as possible. So like, I put a lot of emphasis on, not necessarily emphasis, but a lot of time into getting better. And I feel like a lot of the guys are just a little bit happy where they are.
Right.
But like, I'm definitely in like that catch-up mode.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of the imposter syndrome?
Yes.
Do you feel that at all?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. There's another member of your team was texting me the other day, and we were talking about that. He felt like going into this intramurals felt a lot more comfortable, and he had kind of talked to me about a few, the past couple competitions or at Make or Championships, feeling that imposter syndrome because he's relatively new too. He's been competing for about 2 years, but just like you, demonstrates a lot of talent, and the work ethic and the understanding of like, hey, I need to catch up, but even when I catch up, I'm going to keep going. So getting over that imposter syndrome and gaining the confidence is on that mental side of the game, and not just the competition side of the game, but I would say even in if you're training for self-defense, you're training for tactical scenarios, it's still this air of confidence is important to have. So what has given you confidence?
Performance. So at the intramurals, I was able to medal, which is the first medal I've ever gotten. The first time I've ever won something. It's like getting over that hump of like, okay, I can win something. I am good enough to earn a place. So that, I feel like, was the biggest boost in confidence I've gotten.
Okay.
So being able to put myself out there and trying a competition, be willing to lose, but then at the same time being grateful that I actually won something.
Okay.
That's cool.
And McMick is coming. The Marine Corps Marksmanship competition is coming up in March.
Yep, it'll be the end of February, early March.
Okay.
They've changed the schedule a little bit. It's still kind of confusing on when we're doing it, but
Okay.
sometime at the end of February, beginning of March.
Yeah. And they're probably still in the planning phase here, it being November. I'm trying to figure out, because I know that they're constantly trying to change McMick, so it's not just the same thing over and over again. So trying to figure out what that looks like can be challenging for sure. Yeah.
I think go back to the imposter syndrome thing, a lot of it too kind of depends on where you place yourself versus where you're placing your goals. Because you will have, kind of like you said earlier, you might have somebody who's, I'm good there. Maybe for them, they've reached that goal, but someone who is a competitive shooter or somebody who's probably just competitive naturally, they're always moving that goalpost. I can be a little bit stronger, I can be a little bit faster, I can shoot a little bit faster, a little bit more accurate or whatever. So does that go into your guys' personal training regimen at all? Like, okay, cool, I achieved, man, I had these crazy splits, I never thought I would do that. Now I'm going to see if I can shave a 10th off. Or what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, 100%. So like when we first put the team together and Parker handed out with winning in mind at all of us, it was like, okay, cool, this is a book, and like we weren't really sure what to think of it, and like actually reading that book several times and getting an idea of like where your mind needs to be in order to go where you want it to be, and like what you need to think along the way. One of the things that he really emphasized is having goals, and like he said when he won the Olympics, he felt dead inside because that was his goal, and now he has no goal to push for. So you always have to have a goal lined up, so that when you achieve that one goal, you're not just dead. Like you always have something to push for, and like I felt that exact same thing when I became rifle and pistol distinguished. I have nothing else to push for because that's already an enormous achievement, and like I needed to find something harder or something that I can train to so that my training doesn't feel boring.
What is that goal now?
Second?
What is that goal now?
I would like the lock hammer.
Okay.
I will get that.
What is that?
It's at Marine Corps Championships. It's the high overall rifle and pistol shooter. And then eventually, if I decide I want to try and do bullseye shooting, then maybe the Olympics. But
That'd be cool.
Yeah, if you thought this hobby was expensive, wait till you jump on one of those canvas suits and shooting one of those $8,000 air rifles.
I got to do it like the Ukrainian guy. Just
Oh
wearing a
yeah,
t-shirt.
yeah, t-shirt.
T-shirt, a cigarette in his hand.
Apparently, I read up on that guy, and that's been his MO, his entire shooting career. He's just always been just very minimalist, and it's like I don't need all this stuff to make me better.
It's the Indian, not the hero.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
So I want to talk about your guys' shooting backgrounds. First, like what got you into competitive shooting, or just shooting sports in general, and then if you have ever had like a defining moment that was like, oh man, like this is something I can get really serious about. So we'll start with you, Tim.
So obviously growing up in North Carolina, like been around guns my whole life, hunting and everything. After I joined, and I was like, there's a performance aspect to this. It's like, okay, what do I need to do to perform? It's like, it started out just, the YouTube spiral, looking up training videos and everything, and then like dry firing whenever I could, and then like not a whole lot of competitions until I met this guy, and then he introduced me to my first match. Then I went out and I saw, wow, I suck, and there needs to be a change for me to get to the point where I want to be. And then like a fish, I got hooked.
Did you think going into your first match, did you have the mentality of like, well, I'm not good enough to start shooting matches yet?
I had thought that before, but then like as the dry fire training went on and the confidence grew, I was like, okay, I think I can try. But that was the wrong mindset to be in. I should just jump in.
Okay. All right. What about you, Tanner?
Yeah, so from Iowa, my dad taught me how to shoot when I was 7 or 8, so I've been shooting for about 16 or 17 years now. I just, like Tim, I just did the YouTube thing. My dad was an old school cop where he was doing the Weaver stance and all that stuff, which it works. It gets the task accomplished, just not well or quickly. And then I just, T-Rex arms started coming out, and we're just down a spiral rabbit hole of like figuring out what works best for me and like what works for other people. And then I joined the Marine Corps. Just continued to shoot like that. I didn't really change anything. Was shooting some like the Air Marshal qual or just some other weird qualifications, like to try and find something to push for. And then right after I got married, I went to my first match, which was probably the hardest thing ever, was going to your first match. Because I didn't know anybody, I didn't know what to bring, I didn't know what to wear. I think I wore my combat boots and some Wrangler pants and a long sleeve skivvy shirt or something. And it was a blast, and the people that were there like really brought me in and like helped guide me, and then didn't let me use the excuse of I don't know if I'm ready for this. Like they were just like, nope, next match is this day, you're going. Like, okay, yeah, we're going.
I'm on this train.
Yeah. Can't say no. I stuck with that, and like it was really the only sport, if you want to call it, the only sport that I ever enjoyed doing. Like I played sports throughout high school and like never really enjoyed any of it. And then this is the only one that I was good at, which helps enjoying it. And then I had the mindset of I will be the best at this one day. And that has been my driving force. And then after reading that book, it really helped me set some short-term goals along with long-term goals, and keeps me entertained the entire way. So I never get really bored.
So what aspect about the shooting community drew you in and like kept you?
Probably like it has the competitive environment of it, but it's all individual based. There's nothing that you can do or you can do that affects my performance. So now all the pressure is just on me, and I don't have to worry about outside input. Like maybe the rain sucks a little bit, but that's really about it. And having the good community around you that's you're competing with that guy like I bet I can do it faster than you, and then like now you have a small competition between you inside a large competition. And it just, if you enjoy competing against somebody for something else that you're good at and they're good at, it really helps you push and want to get better at that skill set.
Kind of like when you were saying that when you were shooting with Nils, who's a world champion, phenomenal shooter, and you had a goal of staying within 10% of wherever he was, right? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I shot the Utah State Championship a couple months back. I was shooting production because I was right after the Marine Corps competition, so I was already in the iron sight
mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And found out Nils was in my squad, which was a little nerve-wracking and exciting at the same time. I can figure out how a world-class shooter shoots, and then I can try and just mimic it, like do what he does. Unfortunately, being 5'7", I can't run as tall as a 9-foot person, so he's just gone. So it made me have to push in other areas, but it was really nice to like exchange ideas and see why something may be more beneficial than the other, or when to take more risk. Like for example, one of the stages, everybody left the left popper, nobody shot it, because the time that it took to run over there and shoot it it would have hurt you more than just skipping it.
Yeah, it's a small design flaw in the stage. Yeah, yeah.
And like it was the small things like that I would have never thought of. Like they were like, just don't shoot it. Like, why?
What do you mean?
But it's a target. Must shoot.
Yeah, that's 15 points right there.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was really cool to stay within him and like bounce back and forth, because going into it with the mindset of like, I'm not going to win this, but I can actually push now. Like with my first nationals, I was like, I'm not going to win this, so I'm just going to go balls to the wall. And I finished I think it was 89.5% of Nils or something like that. So right within 10% of him, and it was really cool. It was really cool. And then saw him out in nationals, and like still held the same standard, and like just pushing to be right on those guys' tail. That way, if they mess something up, I'm right there to take their spot. So it's just about who trains harder and who cares more.
Yeah, and I think you said that Nils made a comment to you one time, which I think is really indicative or representative of the shooting community as a whole. Is, you know, he sees you, he knows you now, and shot on a squad. It's like, hey, there's this talented younger kid who's his personal goal just from talking to him is to stay within 10% of me. And then he sees you again later on, and he noticed, and oh, hey, Tanner Wright's within 10% of me again. I think that's really cool. Just that camaraderie inside the community is, yeah, you're competing against each other, but like I want you to do good, and I want me to do good, because if I'm gonna beat you, I want to beat you at your best.
Yep.
I don't want to beat you like Michael Jordan on the flu, even though he still beat everybody.
Yeah, and like that's something that's really good about this community is like I've seen people at majors, and the top two people that are gonna finish there, like let's say the first person, like the first place person, his gun breaks and he didn't bring an extra one. I've seen that second place dude give him a new gun so that he can still shoot.
Even though he's directly knows he's
even though
directly,
if he doesn't shoot, he wins.
Yeah.
That's it. But he still gave literally the gun off his belt to still shoot.
Do you think it's like that because, I mean, there are professional shooters who do make a living in the sport, from the sport, but by and large, that's really not the case for the vast majority of people, right?
Yeah.
Do you think because there's not millions and millions of dollars in payout or people's livelihoods at stake, do you think it's like that because of that?
I don't think it has to do with money. I think it's literally just the environment. Like nationals had probably $80,000 worth of prizes on the table, guns being one of the prizes. And I have no doubt that you could have gone up to any competitor at any time and be like, can I bum 50 rounds? Like nobody would say no, not a single person. And it's just a very, very welcoming community, no matter your skill level. Like I've seen people that have never drawn a pistol before, but they wanted to go shoot a competition, and they may have been slightly unsafe here and there, but like they were all there to guide them in the correct direction, and they were better at the end of the day.
Okay.
I love that. I love hearing that, and I think it kind of goes to some of the camaraderie that you feel in the Marine Corps. For example, you go on a range, and sure, of course, you want to perform to your best. As to your point, you want to beat the person next to you at their best, because then that means I truly am. But also, that's that us together, even though we're having our internal competition, all of us together as a team, we're kind of unstoppable.
Yeah, and like JJ was a great example of that. So this last year at Handgun Nationals, he was shooting production, and the one championship he has never won is a production national champion. And this year, he came in sprinting, like hardcore. And from talking to like Mason Lane and Nils and stuff, he was there giving a clinic during the match and still blew everybody out.
During the match. So like taking away his mental focus on what he needs to do to achieve this goal.
Yep.
And still giving an outpouring to other people.
To the people that are there to beat him.
That's awesome.
That's cool. That is really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Tim, has that been, as you come into the sport, has that kind of been your experience with everything?
Absolutely. It's like the first match I show up, I have like all my range gear and everything. Like, didn't come with rounds or something like that. I knew that the people beside me would have my back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really nice opportunity to be around people like that. We went down to Endless Summer Blast down in Alabama, and I showed up with not enough rounds. I was going to bump some off him, but it turned out, because of my recoil spring and everything, his rounds wouldn't run in my gun. So I was like, okay, well, I got to find another way. And I had 3 people coming to me, like, I had box ammo if you need somebody that. That's awesome.
That's great. That's awesome. So, Tanner, you've been around the Marine Corps long enough now, where you have been able to see and feel the impact of the shift in priorities of marksmanship.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that in the civilian sector as well?
I think people are getting a lot more aware of why firearms are important for like our rights and like being able to bear arms.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the competitive world is starting to expand very rapidly, and especially with like Shooting USA still putting out videos and like recording nationals or like area championships, and it's letting people know what to expect and still helping people find a way to get into the sport. And like the shift within the Marine Corps, I think it's doing the same thing. The Marine Corps Shooting Team is doing a great job, and along with Ken Javes with the Advanced Marksmanship Training Program, and like realizing that combat marksmanship isn't really a thing, it's just marksmanship.
Right.
And not every gunfight not every competition is a gunfight, but every gunfight is a competition. And when you need to get down to that one skill of marksmanship, who do you look for? And it's the professional shooters that do that daily. And like, if you're for law enforcement agencies, their driving instructors are race car drivers. Like they go to that skill to figure like those experts and those SMEs for that skill. And it's not really who has gone to combat anymore. It's what is the most effective way to employ my weapon system static so that I can then start doing it on the move. And then now that I have all that muscle memory built in, now I can do it under stress. And now what we start doing is we compress the fundamentals under time and duress, and it starts really opening up people's minds and being like, okay, I need to work on this, because I used to be able to do this really well static, but now that I'm doing it under pressure and people are watching me and people are recording and there's a timer and I'm one no shoot away from losing first place, all that pressure really makes you hone in on your fundamentals and making sure everything is lined up the way that it's supposed to, and that you're not letting your mental part of it not getting in your own head and being your worst enemy. So.
Okay.
would you say there was a, I guess, a maturity shift at a certain point where you're shooting, you're good, you probably know that you're pretty good, but then there was maybe you come off of one range where you're like, okay, I'm good at this. But with that, moving forward, knowing like, man, I threw that round. Not like, oh, this gun shot, or maybe my optics
the gun,
where you're like, nope, that was me. I had a bad day. Like, was there a moment in time where you were like, okay, I have matured at this craft?
It was so about 6 months into my competition career, if you want.
When you got serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I shot my first nationals just cause we got a spot, so we were like, we're just gonna go, and I was like, I'm just gonna shoot crazy. Like, what's the worst that happens? I lose, cause you're not gonna go to nationals and be like, I am winning this. Not 6 months into it anyway.
Right.
And then I placed 20th, and it was a real eye opener. I was like, okay, like, yes, I messed up, and I was able to identify where I messed up. And I was like, yeah, like, doesn't really matter. And then by the end of day 3, and like, the results came out, and we're like, I might actually have a chance of doing this, and like, maybe making a living off of it. And like being able to use those experiences to then take it back to the Marine Corps and be able to teach them just from the civilian side of it, like it's great.
What about with you? I know that you're kind of newer in your journey, right? But you said once you performed well, was that kind of a moment for you where you're like, okay, I'm good and I know I'm good. Still humble enough to recognize, hey, I threw that one round, or I can get better, or I can get faster. But
it was definitely the intramurals, because around people who are obviously passionate about shooting, like they've signed up for this, they're missing work, they're here because they want to be good shooters, and they are good shooters, and still being able to perform better than them. It's like, okay, I have a chance. I'm not terrible at this. So it was definitely an eye-opening experience.
yeah.
It's a good feeling, huh?
Yeah, very good feeling.
When you walk into a match and you're like, after you leave, like, I beat every single person there.
The real like kicker moment was being up on stage with General Hartzell and shaking his hand. That was like, okay, this is a reality. Like, I can do this. I can do the thing.
Yeah, and it's great. It's great when important people place importance on the right things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So General Hartzell being one of the most recent general officers in the Marine Corps who's distinguished. I don't think there's been another distinguished general officer since him.
So
I don't think.
From what I recall from his speech, he is the only general officer since 1960 that has become distinguished.
Yeah.
Which is an enormous accomplishment, but it's also very sad. Like
For a warfighting organization, right?
When that is supposed to be our bread and butter is shooting, and you don't see shooting medals anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think I've ever seen a single sergeant major with a shooting medal. And like, a lot of people prioritize their career over making Marines better, and probably the easiest way to make them better is to get them better firearms training, and not just buddy rushing through the Gizra for 2 days.
Which is fun in its own way.
Yeah.
That's a Type 2 memory.
Has its place.
Yeah.
Well, like in the CMC and CMT classroom, I changed up that portion or that class to include a lot of the famous Marines who were distinguished. Turns out a lot of our generals from World War I and World War II were all distinguished. Some big names out there.
Yeah.
Holcomb. There were one of the ACMACs. We've had commandants who were distinguished. General Shoup. But like you said, Hartzell's the only one since the 60s or 70s. And for an organization that places pride on every Marine and rifleman, one shot, one kill, like all those corny sayings, we don't back it up anymore.
No.
But I think the Marine Corps with AMTP and the way they're training now, and placing emphasis and requirements on infantrymen to all go through AMTP and to refresh and do the IMA was it twice a year? Well, I don't know what the sustainment rate is on that anymore.
I'm not sure. I know it's about to be released. It's briefed in the marksmanship campaign plan.
Okay.
And they're talking about taking your IMA hit factor, so the infantry marksmanship assessment hit factor, and then the RMA, the rifle marksmanship assessment.
For non-infantry MOSs?
Yeah, correct. And that's going to start going into your MOL. And when you check into when you go into a new unit, it's going to be like, here's my training jacket, here's my marksmanship jacket. And now they're like,
that's fantastic.
This dude can't shoot. We need to train this dude.
There's an AMTP coming up when you throw them on that. Yeah.
And like it'll really show who can shoot, and it'll actually figure out a good lethality for that unit.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing that with JMAP and actually being able to assess an entire unit's marksmanship capability down to the individual, so that they can see how much they have improved over the last however long, where they're at now, and then using the skills that are assessed in the IMA. It gives every unit something that they can work on, like throughout the Marine Corps.
And it'll give good reason to force that training on at all levels, right? Like you're expected to go to the gym, maybe before work or after work if you're not doing unit PT, but you're expected to maintain that level of proficiency. It's kind of hard to do that with rifles and pistols. I mean, obviously there's a lot of good dry fire practice that you can do, and there's some more and more technology coming out that allows you to training aids to do stuff.
Yeah.
But you also can't I'm gonna go to my barracks and put a couple holes in the wall.
You can do that.
Well, you can.
You can do that once.
Yeah.
But and as soon as you said that, there's a lot of technologies coming out, Tanner 9 locked eyes, because you have that with the ACE.
The ACE VR headset.
Yeah.
Which it has its place. I do not think it replaces live fire training at all. I think the only thing that it really works on is visual stuff. To be honest.
That's interesting. That's not the first time I've heard that. Actually, there was an airman in one of the competitions for the National Guard, and he was, I forget what his MOS was, but it was not infantry based. It had no, not even like really rifle or pistol foundation for what his job was. But he was like just one of the highest shooters out there that day, and I was like, what are you doing? You just shoot a lot on your off time? He's like, I know this is gonna sound corny, Sergeant, but VR. Maybe.
There's a lot of every Formula One team out there. They have sim drivers, and they're up and coming young race car drivers who race the sim. And when you go to a new track, they mirror the conditions. They have spherics, and they just throw that driver in the sim, and they start tweaking the car and trying to figure out what's the fastest. So in this day and age, there is a place for it. Like you said, it doesn't replace the feel of the gun, the recoil impulse. It doesn't change. You can't train to that. But from the day you brought it into work, Colonel Geiger was having some fun with that, man. You couldn't get him to take it off.
Take it away from him.
Yeah.
He was in there for like 45 minutes just having the time of his life.
Yeah. But instantly, it was one, it's fun.
Yeah.
Two, as soon as you put it on and you feel the realism of it, it's like, oh, that inherent, like, this has value. It's you can't ignore it.
Yep.
It's pretty wild.
And it builds competition, because within that application, you can compete against other people that have the same program. So then it's keeping the competition like feel, and it's giving you a goal now, because now you're competing against other people. So like it
the
helps.
peloton of shooting.
It helps dry fire have a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to lose interest in dry fire. It's really, really easy to, especially if you don't have a solid goal that you're working towards.
Yeah.
I think you had a post one time too, because what I really respect about you and your career for shooting is you have a dry fire routine, and just like somebody who wants to meet goals lifting weights or whatever, they have to go to the gym and they have to be disciplined in that. You're the same way with your dry fire, where I think your post was something like, you see Sunday as a day off from training, whereas I see it as a day on. Or I remember what it was exactly. I'm gonna butcher it, but it reflected this mentality of like, well, you see it as a burden, whereas I see it as an opportunity.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, like when you are trying for nationals or the world shoot, it's all their skill is relatively the same. Like world class shooters shoot like world class shooters. It's just who messes up the least. And everybody's gonna mess up, but you gotta minimize that. And whoever puts in the more effort to not mess it up, that's gonna be the guy that comes out.
Okay.
So like if you don't put the time in, you cannot expect the results.
One of not his biggest fan, but I don't disagree with him either. Chris Costa. One of the things that he said that I absolutely love is amateurs train to get it right. Professionals train until they get it wrong.
Until they can't get it wrong.
Or well, it works either way. Like if I'm a professional and I'm training until I get it wrong, okay, well now I know what that was. Until I can't get it wrong, like it just comes up naturally.
And like dry fire doesn't even need to be like 45 minutes of you just standing and aiming at a light switch or a doorknob or something, which we've all done in a hotel room because you didn't bring your targets with you, so you're just aiming at Sharpie marks on the wall.
Yeah.
But like dry fire could just be sitting at your desk. Like if you're into video games and you die, like what I did when I was in high school was like I'd play video games, and if I died, then I just mess with my gun until I respawn, and that just built the manipulation of the weapon, and it helped me be more proficient with just manipulating the gun and not having to think about anything. It just made everything here in my hands subconscious.
And I think that also gets you to the point where you can pick up any gun, whether you've ever held that gun before or not. It's your first time touching a Walther PDP. By having that memory or that knowledge, I know exactly where the mag release is, I know where the slide release is, I know how to manipulate it, and that transitioning from a Glock to a staccato to a 320 doesn't slow me down, because I'm holding a pistol and I know its mechanics regardless of who makes it, right? There's a lot of people out there who you change up their gear just a little bit and they feel limited.
Right.
Where it's like, no, like I know my capabilities because I have built just those, I've logged those 50,000 hours worth of tactile feel on that pistol, on a pistol, right?
And like even swapping between guns, like a match gun versus your practice gun, like you spend so much time with that platform that you notice the smallest difference. So like at work we're shooting the M18s, which is a compact slide, which is way more recoil than my Cheeto Puff rounds out of a 5-inch.
Yeah.
And like
you're shooting plus P's at the Alpha 363 is a plus P.
It's completely different. We're going from like a 3-pound trigger to a mil spec 5-6 pound trigger. Like it'll take you a couple reps of dry fire, but it'll probably take you 10 minutes and like you're back to normal. Like, you just have to reacclimate to a new gun.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
One thing I would do is if I'm watching TV, pick a character. Doesn't matter. Just anytime that character pops up on screen, just dry fire, put a couple rounds.
How many TVs have you gone through?
None yet. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
But do it safe.
Yeah.
Do it safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like that character's back up. You know, whether you're practicing from, and for me it's typically been from concealment or whatever. But that's something that you could do too. I mean, you're 30 minutes TV show, an hour, whatever. And just stand there and sure you're watching it, but then it turns dry fire a little more fun.
I think we've covered all the things we want to for the topic of shooting, and I've really wanted to weave in our previous exploits these past 18 hours into the conversation, but I don't know how to do it, so I think we should just dive into some willing vulnerability on my ability to bury a truck in mud.
You're really good at it.
You did that very successfully. Multiple
times.
Yeah.
Yesterday and today.
Yeah.
Perfect practice makes perfect.
Yes.
You did
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, and I loved your video, but your video is hilarious. So you're like, oh, selfie of like, oh, whoever can do that's pretty embarrassing. And in the background, you see your truck half sunk too. And you're like, oh, whoops. That's perfect because I called Matt. I got buried in mud, and I called Matt for help. I'm like, hey, I drove into the pond. Can you get me out?
I was like,
and then you come to the exact. You come to the exact spot where I sunk, and you slammed on your brakes and sink in too. Yeah.
I just see like whoa, and I'm like, what? This isn't gonna be good, is it?
Yeah, and right when the sun's going down. I appreciate you guys. This is your vacation. You spent money to come out here. You guys dove right in and grabbed the shovel and got muddy.
Appreciate you guys are like pretty cool dudes. Just like you said, hopped in, just did the thing.
What else are we gonna do? Watch?
Yeah.
Good.
It would have been a little bit funnier. But.
Yeah.
That would have been, yeah.
The first day you got here, and because I was in my head, I'm like, oh, do I put these guys to work, or do I just let them kind of have fun, like this is a playground kind of thing? And you're like, oh, like we need to plow the roads. Like I'll hop on the Polaris with the plow and start moving some snow. And then as you're plowing, like the snow dust comes and lands on you, and you just get covered in snow. You start getting wet, and you're moving 30 miles an hour in 30-degree weather. You get cold real quick. And I looked over at Tim, and I was like, should we tell Tanner we have a windshield for that thing?
I knew you brought up a windshield.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be really useful, and then I just drive away.
Yeah.
I got my PPE, I'm good.
Yeah.
That's funny. Have you guys ever, might be a silly question, but running into quite a few Marines like this, have you guys seen snow before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm from Iowa, so that's
you're from
6 months of the year we got Iowa. Oh,
yeah.
we got snow.
Yeah.
Well, you're from Greenville, so
Greensboro.
Greensboro,
Greensboro.
right? Yeah.
We went up to the Alps all the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Spent my fair share at the time of the snow.
Yeah. Ask Matt how many times he's been to Bridgeport.
Been to Bridgeport 5 times.
That sucks.
All winter training.
Winter package.
Yeah, except for summer mountain leader. Other than that, everything was in the snow, and that sucked. Yeah, actually during winter mountain leader, and during one of the other courses I went to, there was some Marines who had never seen snow, and I'm like, buddy, friend, you are in for it because good luck.
Yeah.
But yeah, snow's a good time if you plan for it.
As long as you can stay dry, I don't mind the snow. That's the challenge, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I really appreciate you guys coming out. And I know the weather kind of threw us for a loop where we were supposed to have our grand opening. So it's going to be Tanner Wright class on Friday, grand opening Saturday, and then a PCSL match on Sunday to apply those things that you taught. And we didn't quite get to do that, but I think we salvaged a pretty good and fun weekend where we built some good memories. And
Yeah.
it's good seeing you guys again.
Are you guys planning on coming out again?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
100%.
Cool.
In fact, we're going to have a Camp Lejeune Shooting Team reunion.
Reunion in New Mexico.
Like an anniversary of whenever.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to look into when we actually.
From when we stood up the team. I don't have access to my .mil anymore, so you'll have to look back.
I hope I didn't delete it.
Yeah, I hope not either.
We
But
can just throw a date together.
yeah,
Yeah.
we already got some
Veterans
guys.
Day weekend every year.
We got some guys who are looking at plane tickets, and they're already going to be coming out. So
That's cool. Yeah.
it'll be
It's a
fun.
good time. Hopefully I can bring my buddy Mike out here and we can do a couple, like maybe an intro to competition class on some day and then like follow that with an actual competition day.
Yeah.
Or like find some other stuff to like really start bringing more people out here and like just trying to help spread word.
Awesome, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're overdue for some range time.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
I'll never say no to shooting guns.
All right,
Hear that?
let's go do it.
Let's do it.